everyone, it's Alice, and today we're doing another book haul. This time of year really is my downfall when it comes to trying to not buy too many new books. I don't know what it is, I just feel like I find so many books that I want to read this time of year and I just end up getting them. So we have another book haul. We should probably just get into it and take a look at the direct consequences of my own book buying actions. Let's start with some mystery books. The first one I have here is The Things We Do to Our Friends by Heather Darvant. And this is set in Edinburgh, which it already gets points for because that's a great setting. And it's about this woman who moves there to get away from her dark past. And she's in like the process of reinventing herself. And in that process, I think she meets this like charming, rich girl in her art history class, and she becomes friends with her and becomes a part of her like exclusive friend group. They're living it up, going to sophisticated dinner parties and spending the summer in France, like that's where we're at. But then I think the friend, like the new friend, asks our main character to do something that has something to do with her past, or it's like similar to her past and everything that she's trying to run away from. I just think this sounds very intriguing. It sounds like my kind of mystery, a little bit atmospheric, and it seems like a lot of people who like the kind of writing that I like really like the writing in this, so hopefully I will like it too. Secondly, we have a book translated from Japanese. It's The Tattoo Murder by Akimitsu Tagaki, and I'm pretty sure this is a classic at this point. It came out in the 40s originally, and it's like a locked room mystery where this woman who has survived the Second World War is found dead in a locked room, and it seems like the murder is quite gruesome. And I think we follow the perspective of this doctor who is the brother of the detective who is like investigating the case or something. I think maybe they end up investigating it together, but then they get a little bit too involved. It's always fun to read translated books, and I usually get on quite well with Japanese translations, so I'm looking forward to that. And then it just sounds like an intriguing mystery. Like, I love a locked room mystery, so this will be very exciting. I also really like this edition. It's really cool. Another really cool looking book I have is The Cloisters by Katie Hayes. And this one follows a woman who moves to New York City and she's hoping to spend the summer working at the Met. But then instead of getting to work there, she's assigned to this other museum called The Cloisters, which is like a Gothic museum and garden, which, if you ask me, that sounds way cooler. When she gets there though, she is drawn into this circle of researchers, all of which have like their own dark secrets. And I mean, this is a mystery book. I don't really know what the mystery is, but I'm pretty sure it has something to do with fortune telling and this like ancient tarot deck that they find. I don't really know, but it sounds very intriguing, and I almost kind of don't want to know more. I just want to go into it and see what I find. It seems to me like it has a lot of elements to it that I would really like, so I'm very excited. I'm also very excited about the setting, because if most of it is set in this museum and like Gothic garden, that's gonna be great. The last mystery book I have has a little bit of a tone shift to it. It's a little bit different. It's Vera Wong's Unsolicited Advice for Murderers, which I'm pretty sure is a cozy mystery, and in it we follow this 60-year-old woman who is a self-proclaimed tea expert, but then she's also like a matchmaker and an amateur sleuth in her free time, so she has a lot going on. The case in here starts with our main character finding a murdered person in her tea shop, I think, and she decides that she's going to investigate the case because she thinks she can do a better job than the police. She sounds like quite the character, like she's a lot, but she's also a lot of fun, so I think this is going to be just fun. I'm expecting this to be very lighthearted, and it can be like the kind of book I can read when I need something lighter in between like darker and heavier books. Then we have got a historical fiction section, starting off with The Strange Case of the Alchemist's Daughter by Theodora Goss. And this is like a historical fiction fantasy mystery, I think, and we're following the daughter of Jekyll, who I think is looking into her father's past and has found something to do with someone named Hyde. And obviously this is like drawing from a literary background and like the literary canon. Is that what we call it? I don't really know. But it's drawing from like classics, and I think the mystery is about her father and Mr. Hyde, I guess. I don't think the classic literary connections end there though, because I'm pretty sure that our main character ends up like solving whatever mystery is in here with the help of Sherlock Holmes and Dr. Watson. So it appears like it's drawing from a lot of different books, and I feel like that could go both ways. But I am hopeful with this. I think that it could be a lot of fun if it works, and I'm intrigued to read it to see if it works. There is mention of someone named Frankenstein on the back here as well, so that's exciting. I wonder how that's going to play into this. I love Frankenstein though, so I think that could be interesting. Then I've got this beautiful book. This is The Invisible Hour by Alice Hoffman, and this will be my first book by this author outside of the Practical Magic series, and I'm really excited about this because I love Hoffman's writing style and like the way she tells stories, and so I'm excited to read like a story from her outside of the Practical Magic universe. This follows a woman who lives inside a place called The Community, which I'm assuming is some sort of cult, like I'm getting cult vibes from it. And she's living there and she's really struggling, and she's getting to a point where she doesn't know how she's going to survive in there. And I'm pretty sure in this community, books are considered evil and they're banned, or at least they're very bad there, I guess. And the story is about how this woman is saved by books and by reading. How? I don't really know. But there is mention of a particular book. It mentions The Scarlet Letter, which I'm sure you know is a classic, but that's the only thing about this book that I'm a little bit apprehensive about, because I actually really dislike The Scarlet Letter. And so I'm hoping that's not like a huge part of the story. I do feel quite certain that I am gonna like this though, because I love Hoffman's storytelling, so I feel like it can't go wrong. The next one I got, I'm also pretty sure I'm gonna like the writing style in. It's The Impossible Girl by Lydia Kang. And I read the book Opium and Absinthe by this author a couple of months ago, and I really liked it. So I thought I would try to read some more of her books. This is set in Manhattan in the 1850s, and we follow this girl who is born out of wedlock to this wealthy socialite and this immigrant parent. And because she has these two different parents, she can like seamlessly move through different classes in society. So she can go to parties and be a part of that scene, but she can also like go in slums unnoticed, which is handy for her because she is a body snatcher and she steals corpses for medical people who want them, which crazily enough was a thing at the time. Then a series of murders unfolds in the city, and I think she like gets involved into that somehow. And it sounds very interesting. I really liked the atmosphere and the setting, especially the historical feeling of the other book that I read. So I think that the setting of this and the atmosphere of it is going to be great. And I think the idea of a female body snatcher in this time is really cool. Then I have a book that I remember hearing about years and years ago, and I'm wondering if maybe I first heard about it like around the time it first came out, and I remember thinking, that sounds really interesting, I should read it. And I've thought that every time I've seen this book since, and I finally just got a copy of it. I think I heard about this like over 10 years ago. I finally got a copy. It's The 13th Tale by Diane Setterfield. I'm pretty sure this follows a biographer who is called to the house of this mysterious famous novelist who is dying, and who wants this biographer to tell the story of her life, and in particular her childhood, which has been like a huge secret. And I think maybe this childhood of hers ends up like mirroring the biographer's childhood at least a little bit. I love that kind of story. I think it sounds really interesting, and I'm pretty sure this has like some gothic elements to it, which I'm very intrigued about. And I have heard this referred to as like a love letter to reading, which obviously I'm into. Next, we have a little science fiction section, which consists of just these two books, which are two books in the same trilogy. We have Adulthood Rights and Imago by Octavia E. Butler, and these are, I don't actually know what this trilogy is called. Is it called Lilith's Brood? I don't know, but I read the first book a couple of months ago, and it's called Dawn. The first book tells the story of this woman who is awakened on a spaceship, and these aliens have taken in the remainders of like the human population after this war ravaged and destroyed the Earth. And these aliens came, took them aboard their ship, and they've kept them there for centuries while they've sort of been fixing Earth. And now this woman has been awakened, and she's going to be a part of repopulating the Earth. But unfortunately, the price for that is that the aliens want to mate with the people. So they're repopulating the Earth with the results of that mating. I gotta tell you, the first book in the series was so, like, it blew my mind. And it was horrifying, but it was so intriguing. And there's something about Butler's writing style that I just love it so much. I love how she tells stories, and I've thought a lot about that book, Dawn, since I finished it, because it has a lot of interesting and disturbing themes to it, and it really makes you think. And that book ends on quite the revelation, and it sort of tells you what's going to happen with the main character in the next book. And let me tell you, I am equal parts intrigued and terrified. Then we have a one-book romance section with Fake Dates and Mooncakes by Shir Lee. And I gotta be honest with you, I just got this book because it looks really cute and it has a dog on the cover. It's about a chef, I think, who enters this mooncake making contest in honor of his mom, which sounds really sweet. But then he also meets, and I think he gets distracted by this charming, wealthy guy who ropes him into being his fake date for a wedding. I don't really know. Obviously, it has that, like, fake dating thing going on in it, as it is in the title. And that is a trope that I haven't quite, like, I've never read a book where I really got into it. But I think if I find the right book, I would be really into it. So maybe, hopefully, this is the right one. Moving on, we have quite a sizable stack of fantasy books. Starting off with this beautiful but kind of chunky one. This is The Book That Wouldn't Burn by Mark Lawrence. And I've heard a lot of really good things about this book. And it has a great title, it has a great cover, and it has a great premise. So I think it's going to be great. The story follows a boy who has spent his entire life in this ancient, massive library, and we follow him. I'm pretty sure he doesn't live there alone, like he has some people that he lives with. So we follow him, and we also follow this girl who is born on this settlement that no one ever goes to, and it seems to be a little bit haunted. And both of these characters have spent their lives being unnoticed, but something is about to happen that changes all of that. That's all I really know. I think the ancient library thing is enough for me. Like, that's what's drawn me into this. And I'm excited to read it. I feel like it's going to be a pretty immersive book. It is a little bit big, which scares me, but I really want to read it. And it does say on the back here, if you like dark, you will love this author. So that makes me very hopeful. Then I've got this book called Ravenfall by Kaylin Josephson. And this book is set around Halloween. And I very optimistically got this book thinking that I would read it for Halloween this year. As of filming this, I have not started it yet, but maybe by the time you see it, I will have already read it. I'm not making any promises though, because I have a tendency to be very optimistic about how much I can read with the time that I have. This follows two kids though, who both have supernatural powers, and there's something about a magical inn and this demonic creature trying to destroy the world on Halloween. it sounds delightful. It sounds like it's a little bit light-hearted, I'm assuming, based on the cover, and I'm pretty sure this is middle grade, so I don't think it's gonna get too dark. But it just sounds like the perfect amount of like coziness and spookiness. Next, we have an absolutely beautiful cover. It's by Ash, Oak, and Thorn by Melissa Harrison. And my god, the cover design for this one is just beyond. It's so sweet and delightful and pretty, and I wish all books looked like this. Like, it's just amazing. I'm also pretty sure this is a duology or a series, and I have seen the cover for the second book, which is so pretty and autumnal, and I just need to read this so that I can read that. The story is about these tiny ancient creatures, though, who awaken after their winter hibernation, I think. So maybe they're like spring creatures, and they find their home destroyed, unfortunately. And because of that, they set off on an adventure to find more of their kind, to either join them or get help. I don't really know. It sounds so sweet and delightful, and it's just so pretty. Like, if the book has this vibe on the inside, it's gonna be amazing. Then we have another book with a magical library. It's Ink Blood Sister Scribe, and this follows two estranged sisters who are tasked with guarding their family's like library of magical books, which sounds amazing. And they have to come together to unravel this dark secret that is like somehow tied to this book collection. And that just sounds amazing. I love reading books about sisters, so I'm really excited to see that. And then I also am really excited to just see whatever magic this has. And also, obviously, the library. The next one I have has another beautiful cover. Like, look at this. How can I be expected to keep money in my bank account when things like this exist? I don't know, and I'm really bad at it. So I got this book as well. This is Starling House by Alex E. Harrow, and it's like a gothic horror novel, and it's so pretty. The story is set in this dying town in Kentucky, and this town is only famous for this author who used to live there, I'm assuming, and who wrote this really famous book, and then just disappeared. But there is like a house that just appeared out of nowhere when the author disappeared. And I think a lot of the story is set in that house, but the people in the town don't go near it because it seems a little scary. Our main character goes to work there, though, I'm pretty sure, because there is someone living in the house. It's like the heir of this author, and he keeps himself quite a lot. I think he seems quite lonely. And despite reservations, our main character goes to work there, I'm assuming out of desperation, and something happens. And there's something about like the house. She has to claw her way back out of the house, it says. I don't know what's going on with this house, but it sounds very intriguing. Spooky, and hopefully not too scary for me. And yeah, I love a good scary house, if it's not too scary. Another intriguing book that I got, though, is The Hexologists by Josiah Bancroft. And I've heard this described as a series with magical mysteries that can only be solved by one team, which is the team that we follow in here. And obviously I want to read that. I think the team consists of 3 people who are used to spending their days helping people with like magical problems. And the book starts off in here with the royal secretary of the king coming to them and asking them for help. And that like draws them into something bigger than they thought it was going to be. I don't really know what that is, but there is something about the king wanting to be baked into like a cake, which if that's like your desired final form in life, go for it. But it does sound a little bit weird. And then I have read something about a book dragon, which is obviously great. I'm not entirely sure what time period this is set in, but I am pretty sure it's historical fiction. And based on the cover design, I would guess it's like 20s, 30s, 40s, somewhere around there, which I do really like books set in that time. And I do love magical mysteries, so I just feel like this is gonna be so much fun. At the very end, we have a very small nonfiction section. I really haven't read a lot of nonfiction this year, but I just want to get back on the train and want to get back into reading it. And I picked up this book because I've wanted to read it for quite some time. It's The Way Through the Woods by Long Lit Woong. I've heard a lot of good things about this. It's a memoir about the author and her losing her husband. And in her grief, she becomes obsessed with mushrooms and picking mushrooms. And for some reason, that premise is just, it immediately just works for me. I think it's gonna be really, really good. And I think that grief is a really interesting thing to read about because it's one of those human experiences that is somehow very similar to everyone, but also like so different for everyone. And it's just a very interesting thing to read about. I am also at least a little bit interested in mushrooms, so maybe I'll learn something about that in here as well. That was the last book though. My gosh, so many books, so little time. But it's always exciting to get new books. And if you've read any of these that I mentioned today, I would love to hear what you thought, or maybe if you want to read some of them. That's kind of it for today though. As always, thank you very much for hanging out with me today, and I will see you soon. Bye!